Sup, guys? 2-3 yesterday with that slew of baseball plays. Could have easily been 3-2. Could have been a winning day. That Braves Washington game was, I would say, it was a bad beat. It was the worst beat that I took. That game had the under 8.5. It was like, what was that? I think it was 4-1 into the sixth inning. So I mean, that's close, but it's still kind of trending low scoring. You only got like a third of the game left, basically, and then it went into the ninth inning. Top of the ninth, it was 5-2, so it was at 7. So for that thing to go over, you need 2 runs to score in the ninth, which not likely, and it happened. Washington, 2 runs in the top of the ninth to put it over by a half run. That's just brutal. I don't know what else to say about that. The first Detroit-Pittsburgh game went over by 1. I think I don't even remember which team was which. I think Pittsburgh. Did Pittsburgh win both games? One of the teams scored 8 runs in the game, and the other team scored 0. So that one went over by 1 run as well. It's just, man, it sucks. Moving on to today, I actually do not have any plays today. It's a short card, short Thursday baseball card, where a lot of times I can focus in, but there's just nothing that I see that I really want to actually jump in on. But I will talk about NHL and NBA because I talk about all these playoff games. So NHL, Florida at New York Rangers. This is game 5. We move back to New York for this one. The Panthers won at home in game 4, I believe, to retie the series at 2-2. Now we move back to New York, and I'm seeing a lot of market indicators on the Florida side again here in this one. Florida up from -114 to -121 on the road. And as I said, man, in the earlier games in the series, Florida, they're a favorite on the road in the series. They're the favorite to win the series. The odds makers are blatantly telling you that they're actually the better team here, but the public does not agree with that and continues to take the Rangers, the team with the better record. They like the Rangers. Rangers, 56% of the tickets, but only 51% of the cash. So we see the Rangers being a square public underdog yet again at home with the line moving against it. So reverse line movement on the Florida side. So I lean to Florida here. Something tells me Florida's going to win this series. I mean, I think they're the better team. They've been the better team in the series. I would like this better if Florida was coming off a loss, but they came off a win, although you could argue that, well, with that win, now they get to carry that momentum back out on the road. Yeah, that's true. All the market indicators are basically on Florida, but Florida, I played Florida in game 1, and I laid a cheaper price on it, I think in the -115 range. So now they're up to -121, so the odds makers are lining them as a little bit more heavy a favorite now. Interesting. So possibly the value is kind of being extracted from that line on Florida. I do still lean that way to the Florida side. So if you were going to play it, I still wouldn't mind a Florida money line play in that one. The only thing is, obviously, the Rangers have Shesterkin, and he could basically just become a wall at any point, as he has been throughout a lot of these playoffs. Florida does hit you with a barrage of shots, though, but they're high-quantity shots, not high quality. They just throw a ton of shots at you. And Florida probably has the second-best goaltender left in the playoffs here in Bobrovsky, so they also are not bad on that side of the game there. So the lean would be to Florida on that one. NBA, interesting, as Minnesota stayed alive with a win at Dallas in game 4. It's now a 3-1 series lead for Dallas as they won the first 3 games. Of course, no team has ever come back from down 3-0 in an NBA series. Kyrie Irving's teams were 14-0 in closeout games until the last game. Now his teams are 14-1 after losing that most recent game. Again, it is another closeout game here, so we're still in that situation where Irving's teams are 14-1 in that closeout role. Now, of course, every game situation is different, of course, and this is Kyrie on Dallas now, where a lot of those closeout games were with him on other teams, although 2 of them were this season. Of course, they won the closeout games in the first 2 series in the playoffs. Looking at the line in this one, the T-Wolves are up from -4 to 4.5 with juice. So the line's moving up on them a little bit as the home favorite. They're basically in the same range of favor that they were in the first 2 games. I think they were 4.5 in game 1, where I came in and played Dallas in game 1 because I thought Dallas was in a bit of the better spot, the more rested spot. in that one. And they're the more experienced team, and I actually think that they're the better team in the series, to be honest. I think they're being lined basically based on their entire season body of work rather than what they did with this starting lineup with Gafford and Washington, where if you look at the Mavs T-Wolves season series, I think both of those guys didn't play in any of the games. I think when it came down to it, after the Mavs made those moves, I think the one game that they played against the T-Wolves after that, Gafford didn't start or something like that. So the Mavs never actually faced them with this starting lineup. So that's all just kind of interesting side notes there. But yeah, T-Wolves, we've seen the line move up a little bit on them as the favorite. We do see 61% of the tickets on Dallas. So they are a little bit of a public underdog here, but they do also look like they have 64% of the cash now. So it looks like more of the cash than the tickets on Dallas, although the line has moved against that. The line has moved on Minnesota. So hard to say here. I could definitely see an argument for playing Dallas here plus the points, as Dallas, like I said, has been the better team in the series. It's a defensive battle typically between these two teams, good defenses, and Dallas could be in the bounce back spot here, the adjustment spot after they lost at home. Now they get to go back out on the road. They get to leave home, forget about that, make the adjustments, play on the road where they're actually 2-0 in the series. So I do see arguments potentially for the Dallas side here, and I don't necessarily disagree with that side. That would be my slight lean, although I don't actually want to do it. Total in this game is down from 209.5 to 209.5, juice to the under a little bit at -115. We see 74% of the tickets on the over. Public constantly coming in on the over in these playoff games like this. They like the star power on these teams. They like to play the over, but only 53% of the cash on the over, and the line is ticked down a little bit. So it looks like the smarter money is probably on the under in this one, but in the middle of a series like this, I'm not quite so sure I'd want to do that either. It seems a little bit dangerous to actually play an under here. And first, we have a total that's lined lower because it is a playoff game. So you expect better defense in general in the playoffs, and especially from these two teams here. So those are my thoughts on those two games. Looking at Major League Baseball really quick before I get out of here. I don't have any plays here today, but I will say I mentioned yesterday that Detroit was probably going to be in a bad spot because they're coming off a doubleheader. Pittsburgh doesn't play today, unfortunately. Detroit does. Detroit played the doubleheader yesterday against Pittsburgh. Of course, they played the two games early and then got out on the road. So Detroit flying into Boston now. Boston also played yesterday, but Detroit's coming off that doubleheader, and they got pretty much smacked around in that second game where I said I was going to play Skeens in that game regardless of who the starter was going to be for Detroit because I got such a nice underdog price on Pittsburgh. I was like, I got to do that. And it worked out pretty well. I mean, Detroit put in some fill-in starter, I think, and he didn't do well. Detroit got smacked around in that game. Skeens pitched really well again. So Detroit's coming off that. So their bullpen is certainly the less rested of the two, having come off that shellacking at the hands of Pittsburgh in game 2 and having played 2 games, of course, yesterday. They've used more of their bullpen than Boston. Boston, my Red Sox, basically saved their entire bullpen yesterday in a loss to Baltimore. They might be in a little bit of a bounce back spot after that just not very good game. Lost to Baltimore 6-1. They just had no shot in the game, really. And the Red Sox saved their bullpen. They only used one reliever, and it was Chase Anderson, who I think was a starter a long time ago, way back in the day for the Diamondbacks. I can't believe he's still in the league, man. It feels like he was in the league 20 years ago. That guy, he's been in the league for forever. He's like a long relief man for the Red Sox. So they brought him in to finish the game. He pitched a couple innings, and he was the only reliever they used. So the Red Sox bullpen definitely in the better shape in this one. However, Boston in this game is down from -127 to -117. So there's actually reverse line movement against the public Red Sox here. They got 88% of the tickets and only 86% of the cash. So I can't bring myself to actually do it, man. Actually come in with a play on Boston with all the market indicators going against them. It's kind of difficult to do. The line is reverse moved against them. They're public because they have the better record. And I don't think that the Red Sox are as good as their record indicates. I think they're going to probably have a little bit of a drop-off. Excuse me. Although who knows, because a couple of their starters have pitched better than we expected this year, especially Tanner Houck, and Cutter Crawford hasn't been that bad either. Nick Pivetta is pitching for the Red Sox this time. He's a veteran. He's kind of a staple of their rotation when he can stay healthy. I don't think he's the greatest pitcher. I've always kind of thought him to be a little bit overrated, although he actually is a decent strikeout pitcher. He does not have great numbers against these Detroit hitters, though, so that gives me a little bit of hesitation as well as far as playing the Boston side, other than the market being like very much against it. Pivetta doesn't have great numbers against Detroit. And Detroit has Jack Flaherty pitching, and he's been shockingly good this season. One of the biggest surprises in baseball, really, because I've always thought of him as kind of a mediocre pitcher, and he's been really lighting it up this season. Has really good strikeout numbers, good strikeout walk numbers, good command numbers. He's just been kind of blowing hitters away this year, which is crazy to see. I don't know if we're going to expect some sort of regression out of him or whatever, but I don't know. He also doesn't have good numbers against these Red Sox hitters, though. So interesting to see that. And the total in this game has actually gone down from 8.5 juice to the over to 7.5 juice to the over, with 95% of the cash on the under and only 62% of the tickets. So also strange to have seen that money coming in on the under in this one. And both these pitchers don't have good stats against these opposing hitters. So I wouldn't agree with the under here either, especially down as low as that total is now. Very, very interesting. So I'm staying off, but those are my thoughts today. It's going to be a pass for me on the card today. Have a good one, man. Peace.